everyone. My name is Lonnie. I am Lady Braven of the Pride, and I am passionate about helping to inspire, encourage, and empower others to be brave during this particular time of the Great Awakening of humanity. And today I have Kristen Nagle on with me. We're going to be having a conversation about her chapter in the Brave book, the very first one, Courage During COVID. So I will get to that. To start off, I just want to read off a little bit of Kristen's bio so that you probably already know who she is, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about her. Kristen Nagle has been a nurse for 14 years, or had been a nurse for 14 years, primarily in the neonatal intensive care unit before being terminated in January 2021 for speaking up against the narrative. When Kristen's first son was born, she realized the importance of food would have in creating the foundation for his growth and development, and enrolled at the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition. She also became a holistic nutritionist in 2018. As a holistic nutritionist, Kristen is able to understand both conventional medicine as well as a more holistic approach that incorporates the mind, body, and spirit to uncover the root cause of illness. This led to further research into, I might screw this up, 𝐸𝐤𝐤𝐺,
yes.
𝐸𝐤𝐤𝐺 disease, vaccines, and pharmaceutical propaganda. It was through this education that Kristen was able to have a deeper understanding of true health and well-being, and see through the media perpetuated fear that surrounded the pandemic. Kristen believes in medical transparency and informed consent, which is currently lacking in the healthcare system. Kristen has witnessed unethical measures as a neonatal nurse, which has empowered her to speak up and advocate for babies who do not yet have a voice. Her first speaking debut was at her local city hall regarding masks on school children. This led her to speaking at other freedom rallies and eventually organizing her own successful freedom march in her hometown. Kristen is passionate about children's health and empowering families to trust their bodies and immune systems, to support and not suppress symptoms, and to live a more natural life in harmony with the earth, with full body sovereignty. I love that. Absolutely love that. And also, you may also know her from her Instagram channel, Kristen_Nagle. And she was instrumental in covering the true narrative of the convoy. I was following her almost every day. Kristen, thank you very much for being here, and thank you for having this conversation with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So when I first was looking for brave stories across Canada, your name came up quite often, and I reached out to you and I asked you if you would share your story in my first book, Courage During COVID. Now, that was almost a year and a half ago, because the book came out a year ago, and there was a couple months before that. A lot has happened since then.
Definitely a lot has happened.
Yeah, a lot's happened in the world, a lot's happened in our individual lives. I just wanted to read off a small portion of your chapter. I don't want to give it away, but the chapter is chapter number 3, and it's called Canadian Frontline Nurse. And you did a really good job of explaining your whole entire path towards becoming a Canadian frontline nurse and what that means. So this is just one paragraph. 2020 was the year I stepped into fully being the person I was always destined to become with no regrets. Yet I still feared imposter syndrome. Who am I to be speaking on such topics? I don't know enough, and I'm not educated enough. I was just an ordinary person, a mom who said enough is enough. This was the year that pushed me to all my limits, to stand with purpose and passion and to go against the grain. I decided to not fit in, to be rejected, and to stand in my power and truth. It is the year that has been the most freeing for me. I have to share those sentiments for 2020. I mean, that was the year that I was ostracized and kicked out of my own industry and career. Kristen, I would like to ask you a question, and this might even be a little bit personal for me, but how are we to know, maybe you can give me some advice, or anybody out there who is kind of wondering the same thing. How do we know who we can trust when we have to walk into a hospital these days? If you are in the freedom movement and part of the freedom family, and you're aware of the atrocities and the pandemic hoax and the COVID lie, if you're aware of all of that, how could we walk into a hospital and trust anyone and cover our own bases?
Yeah, well, I don't know. And you told me you're going to ask me this question, and I answered with, you might not like the answer that I have to say. And to be honest, you don't know. You don't really know who you're going to be able to trust going in. And there isn't really any rule, I can put out there, oh yeah, don't worry, these ones are still okay, this is okay. Because over the last 2 years specifically, and over the last year when they terminated all the nurses for the mandates and everything else, there are still some really great nurses left. There's still some great doctors in there. But you don't know who you're going to get, what you're going to encounter, what the truth is, because the truth and informed consent has been suppressed far before 2020, far before this great lie. We have not had proper informed consent probably since I started nursing, because we're only taught one way, and we're taught this is the only way, this is the truth, and this is it. So how can you have actual informed consent when you're only looking, on the one side, and you're never taught about, well, there's natural health and there's all these natural remedies and there's your body and your immune system and everything else. So informed consent can never live in the hospital if you're never going to hear about natural remedies and, how our body works and all those other things. So who can you trust? Yourself. And I think that is the biggest takeaway that we have to remember going into this, is that we can only trust ourselves. We are the only ones that know our body, feel our body, are in our body, and we have to start becoming our own experts over ourselves. We're not meant to hand over, responsibility and trust into someone else's hand. They might be able to guide us. We should be able to ask questions without, feeling guilt or shame. Continue to ask as many questions as possible, but realize that you are the only person you can trust, and you are the expert over your own body. And that's how you're going to know who to trust going into these systems, is when we finally become our own experts.
Right. And that was the best answer ever. And I completely agree. Thank you very much for sharing that. So in your story, I highly encourage everybody to read her story. It's chapter 3. It's called Canadian Frontline Nurse. And she talks all about how she got dismissed from her work and why she started standing up and advocating for the children and advocating for natural health. So please get the book and read her story. She has a lot to share with regards to that. And ever since this book came out in May, you have been traveling all across the country doing exactly that. You have been advocating for natural health and to remove the masks off the children, and standing up for the nurses that all have lost their jobs and their voices and their incomes because of this COVID lie. So you went from Ontario all the way out to Victoria in BC and then back?
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, last summer we spent 6 weeks, driving across out to the West and back, doing Q&As, speaking at events or rallies, trying to bring awareness and education, trying to challenge old beliefs and values we might have, challenge the narrative, and it was incredible. It was was uplifting. It was positive. It was, you know, we were well received. And I think the most amazing part for me during that time was just seeing what you'll never see on social media. You know, Canadians rising up, stepping up, forming communities, making a difference, you know, going out of their way to help their neighbor, communities forming. And I remember when I got back after that trip, I was like, you know, Canada's going to be okay, because there's so much going on behind the scenes that we're never going to know, that people are making a change. And I felt, you know, it helped us be able to connect these dots, make these connections across Canada. But there is so much happening. Like, Canadians really are, you know, moving forward and making a change. And it doesn't seem that way, you know, because you don't see everything on social media, and obviously mainstream will never show it. But I remember feeling very uplifted and positive after returning home.
Right. And I have to say, Kristen, I've been watching a lot of your journey and a lot of your talks and interviews along the way. And in 2020, when the pandemic first started and they started doing the 7 p.m., everybody bang your pots in support of the nurses and all of the emergency services, that never really resonated with me. I didn't consider them heroes. I consider you and all of the Canadian frontline nurses and everybody that is speaking out against all of the false narrative. I consider you guys heroes, Canadian heroes. And I'm so grateful to have your story in this book. I also have Sarah Chajunian, which is your good friend and fellow nurse. And then also in Speaking Truth to Power, I got 2 more of the Canadian frontline nurses.
Yeah, Crystal Pitter and Nordia German.
Oh yeah, there they are, Crystal Pitter and Nordia German. Yes. So, and they share their stories of going across the country and speaking truth to power as well. So in my eyes, you guys are the heroes. Thank you very much for doing that. And then after all of that, when the Canadian convoy started, you headed straight to Ottawa and you shared with the entire nation the true story, the true narrative of what was going on. So how was that for you? What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was absolutely amazing. And I don't know, like, and I want to just step back a little bit. Like, I definitely agree about, you know, the pots and pans and all that, you know, trying, you know, banging for the frontline, essential workers, the heroes. I think that created the problem that we're still seeing. Because, you know, the capes went on and many wanted to live in that kind of superhero world. And it kind of kept blinders on. That's all they're able to see, you know, with that cloak on and, you know, standing tall and yes, we're heroes, we're going into danger. That's right. Like it continued to perpetuate, you know, the mentality and that thought process instead of realizing, like, you know, that's what we signed up for. That is literally our career. It's no different than a firefighter, like going into a burning building, never knowing every shift, what's going to happen, what they're going to encounter, an officer, all these things. Like, that is what we signed up for. You know, especially, you know, emergency nurses, you know, they're like the first responders. That's our career. So to say, you know, to go out and just bang pots and pans, it's like, well, we're just doing literally our job that we signed up for, that we know the risks and we know everything that, you know, could happen. We're taking that on. So I don't consider ourselves heroes. We were just loud and also doing our job, which is to advocate and agitate when we see harms being done. And we were literally just doing our duty of, you know, and following nursing ethics and speaking up when we saw harm. So again, it was just part of our job and duty that we signed up for.
I just want to say though, you were doing your job, you were staying true to your oath, and you got fired for it, and you spoke out about it, and that's why I consider you the hero. I don't necessarily consider all of the other nurses that didn't speak up, that didn't advocate for the truth, that just did TikTok dance videos and told everybody that the hospitals were all full. I don't consider them and
not at this stage. Absolutely not. And it's a shame. I think we all felt kind of a disgrace, I think, to the profession, and watching the harms being done and this lie being told. And it's been hard to kind of look back on what nursing has become. I think for many of us that have spoken out, you know, and we saw this was not what we signed up for. And I know many of us, don't resonate with what that industry unfortunately has become. But that led us to, yes, positive stuff. Going into the convoy, it was, we were getting, I think everyone was across Canada. It just seemed like we weren't getting anywhere, pushing, this boulder up like an uphill, like battle, and just kind of, losing hope a little bit and just feeling fatigued. And then the convoy started. And it was like, oh my gosh, like there is no denying like the size of the trucks, like seeing them, how symbolic that was, right? Just the enormity of these massive, yes. And there's no denying that, like the size of the, like how many trucks showed up, and then the people, the overpasses all along the highway, like just everyone finally stepping out and coming forward. It was like, oh my gosh, like finally there's so many more than we even realized. The trucks gave people hope, and they gave them the power to have a voice. They felt they had the strength now to say something. People that had been silenced the whole time finally like, oh, there's enough of us now. Like I have to speak out on this. I have to share this. And it just spread all over social media, all over the world. And it showed, people that felt alone, that, oh my gosh, there's so many more of us than we ever knew. So I didn't know who I was going to be going with or what was going to happen. I just knew I had to be there. Luckily, I found 2 girls to go with. One of them runs the account Rise Up Canada. And we went for the weekend, stayed till Monday, and it was unbelievable. We left with the South Convoy. So we pulled right in. We were his first convoy to pull in on Wellington Street, watching the trucks, watching people come in. That first weekend was just electrifying. It was so emotional, is what it was. It was incredibly emotional.
Oh my goodness, emotional. I saw you on the front line. I saw you face to face with some of those policemen, and they looked like military. I don't know what they were. I saw you, and you were so passionately trying to reach them, trying to connect with them on a soul level. It was so moving. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. You were crying, I was crying, everybody was crying. It was very emotional, and it was very brave. It was very brave of you. Thank you very much for doing that.
Thank you. Those last final days, I mean, we were there for 3 weeks. I came home for a day after that first weekend, told my husband, I was like, we have to go back. Like, I can't leave this. This is like just historical. This is monumental. Like I have to be a part of this. And so went back, and my husband and kids ended up coming back home after our time there, and I stayed. So I stayed for the full 3 weeks, right up until the end. And things were moving. Like the spirit was, God had his hand all over the entire movement. That entire 3 weeks, things were shifting and moving. The love, the support, the community was just incredible, like indescribable to experience, really, to see the peace and when people just looking out for one another. And it just was like, well, this is living. This is what we've missed out on for, the past 2 years. And this is how we're meant to live. And this is how we're meant to feel. And oh my gosh, it is possible. And, humanity does care. And there are good people out here, and strangers can connect, and we can put aside our differences and our culture and our background. It doesn't matter. And we are just all one, and we're all here to stand up together. And it was just incredibly powerful, which led to those final days. Because they realized that people finally stood up. And that's what it was. This whole movement has always been about, we don't need a leader. We don't need an organization. We don't need a savior. And that's what the convoy also showed us. I don't know who organized it. I never got into the top leaders. I don't know who they are. I don't care, to be honest, because I know people, have their stories or how they feel about them. It doesn't matter, because what was happening on the ground was the people, grassroots. And that's what we needed all along. When the people stand up and say enough is enough, and we all unite in solidarity together, that's when the change happens. And that's why they had to come in with brutal force, is because they realized the people finally held the power, and that was the only way that they were going to stop us. And it was very intense. It was very emotional. I cried a lot, as you said. Definitely not because I was scared, but because I was sad. I was sad for what was happening to the people around us, the state of our country. But also in those moments, people have to realize the hope in those final days too, because they had nothing left, because we had already won. And so they had to come at us with that. And that is still to this day their last card. They don't have anything left to do. Right. They showed, they bared their teeth. They showed all they have, right? And still, even with that, with them trying to get a reaction out of us and push us and get us to react, we still maintained peace. And that was the other part of that, why I was so emotional, because I'm like, how are all these people after 48 hours, this brutal force, still somehow trying to offer officers flowers or coffee, going down the line with Tim Hortons coffee and asking if they want a cup of coffee. And then all of a sudden a dance party, the Saturday night, the final push, this massive dance party with like thousands of people broke out. Like they had speakers and a DJ and people just smiling and laughing right before the rubber bullets came. I mean, it couldn't be any more Canadian than that. And I hope people don't feel defeated, and I hope people don't think that nothing happened. Yes, there are still federal mandates, but we showed the power of love, the power of the people, and the changes that we can make and that we're capable of, because every time they came at us with a challenge, we found a solution. And now that we all came together across the country and we all went back home, now what we have to do is to start creating that change within our own home and then within our own communities, and allow that to spread organically across the country. And that's personally where I'm at now. It was just the biggest roller coaster I've ever been on, with the highs, then the lows, and the back up, where I feel like I've become at this nesting phase right now, where last 2 years, I've been taken away from my home, both physically, mentally, emotionally, from my kids, from my husband, from my friends, from everything around me, where it's like, okay, I experienced that. I know that that exists, and I'm not going to crave it and wish for it. Now it's time to create it here. And so I find in the last, once I kind of decompressed and settled after all that, I found now what I'm doing is getting back to gardening, herbs, my kombucha, my scobies have been neglected forever. I'm getting back into sourdough making, spending time with my kids outside, our forest school, our nature school, and just creating parallel societies and solutions. We have a wellness hub that we have here in town, and we're just strengthening our community. And I think we know we have a lot more challenges ahead of ourselves, but the narrative, I'm so sick of it and tired of it. And I'm sick of the C word, and I'm tired of the entire lie, where now I'm just interested in show me the homesteaders. Let's get back to how we can, teach me how to crochet, teach me actual hands-on skills.
Absolutely.
And how I can actually live. Sorry, I went on a long rant there, but.
Oh no, that's quite all right. I just wanted to say that through everything that you went through, I know that it wasn't always fun and as exciting and amazing, but I was so jealous the entire time. I really wanted to be out there. And, I was not following any of the news or any of the top leaders or anything of the movement. I was following you. I was following Sean Zimmer. I was following Kyle Cardinal. I was following a couple other names, but when I wanted to know what was happening at the convoy, I was following you guys. And if I hadn't heard of anything for over 24 hours, I was like, oh my God, what's going on? But yes, I wanted to be out there, and I was stuck on this side of Canada, watching from afar and doing what I felt I was capable of and what I was called to do at the time. And a lot of that had to do with my book projects and sharing these really powerful stories. But I also want to mention that yes, I feel like there is this progression. So this is Courage During COVID is all about the fight and standing up to government corruption and medical fraud. Speaking Truth to Power is all about using your voice and standing out and countering the false mainstream media narrative. And then this third book that just came out, Activating the Pineal Gland, it's called The Brave, Ascending Human Consciousness. And it's about how do we wake people up and snap them out of their mind control and programming? How do we do that? And then I've got 20 stories of people who are brave enough to help heal humanity, expand their awareness, and elevate their consciousness. And the reason I bring it up, because it has everything to do with where you've arrived. Now you're in a state of, okay, let's create new communities. Let's focus on our future. Let's focus on our visualization of what's coming next. That's all in the past. And let's focus on where we want to go now. And that has to do with like being more self-sufficient, self-reliant, permaculture, kombucha, like all of these things, right? Yes. I also do kombucha. And I have a tower garden. Like I've got all my produce growing in my living room or in my kitchen. And I'm trying to be more self-reliant by building community. This is the most important thing. Surround yourself with like-minded people that have the same values and interests so that you can collaborate and co-create the future that we all want together. So the fourth book in the series, at this point, I might end it with the fourth book, but the fourth book is going to be called The Brave Manifesting New Earth. And after everything you just said, I think I've already asked you if you would like to share a story in that one. I would love that.
Yes, I'd love to do a follow-up. Like you said, it's been, I've been trying to reflect on my last 2 years. I mean, my journey speaking out publicly, getting in trouble with my college started before 2020. It started really in 2018 when my second son was born, when I started speaking out about childhood immunizations and natural health. And it just kind of progressed me to, you know, and I love how you said, I love the book series because it's true. Like when I first started speaking out, it was like just really speaking out about the corruption, like the medical system, like, and just how they lied to us and deceived us. And then I remember, yeah, the second phase of, you know, even us traveling across Canada was like, okay, the awareness, like, you know, yeah, the media's been lying about everything that's happening, you know, like even how I mentioned it, I was like, you won't see it on the news or social media, but things are happening across Canada. Right. And then absolutely now, you know, the ascension. I love your book series. Like, I was kind of like, I'm just thinking, I was like, yeah, like that's been so many of us. And now it's like, okay, well, we spoke on the corruption. We spoke on the media. We've spoken up. We fought, but you can only fight for so long knowing that all these things are going to collapse. And then when they do, because they are collapsing, they are going to crumble. What are we left with? Like, where are we going? And so we've done that the last 2 years. Like, let's put that behind us because now we're moving forward. Like, what are we fighting for? Like, we are already free beings. We have been freed. You know, and especially, I know this, I'm just speaking for myself and my faith, but, you know, my faith, you know, I do believe Jesus, he came, he freed us. And so we are doing him a disservice by asking someone else to save us and free us. We just have to act and move away. So it's time to create, put all that fighting energy behind us and put it into moving forward with love and creating and where we want to go, what direction, like focus on that. Like, what does the future look like? Like, how do we want to live? Like, how do we want our kids to grow up? What's that going to look like? And when you start focusing on those things, I'm smiling because it is exciting and it's beautiful and it's how we should always have been going. And we are at this beautiful place where this happened to change our trajectory. But now we actually, like, I'm speaking out loud for myself, like now we actually have to act on that. Right. So I've kind of like stopped focusing on this, you know, for a bit. I've let my health go. I've let a lot of things go. And now it's like, well, I can't keep speaking about these things and not doing it myself. So that's where I'm at. I have to come in and start, you know, creating the future I want and lead by example. Right. So I am excited to see where all this is going.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm a master manifestor. I make things happen. And manifestation 101, where you put your attention and your focus is what you end up attracting into your life. And the thing about all of the dark agendas is that they have a multi-billion-dollar media propaganda machine behind them, getting all of these dark ideas into people's heads. All of the positive and the good things coming, they don't have a media propaganda machine behind them, but they are there. There are so many good things coming. And all we need to do is start letting people know about the possibilities and the opportunities that are available to us, so we can all start visualizing and focusing on those things, like 1,000 years of peace on Earth. Like med beds, like 6,000 new technologies that have been suppressed and kept from humanity, like the quantum financial system, like abundance and peace and prosperity for everyone, like all of these new communities and permaculture and new ways of being self-reliant and self-sufficient. There are so many opportunities and possibilities that we really need to shift the whole entire perspective and start looking into the direction that we want to go, because that's how we manifest it together.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah.
So I know it's so powerful, and I've always believed in the good things coming. I've also done a lot of research about what's happening that isn't televised. So I know, and I believe, and I have faith myself in all of the good things coming. And I know that we're heading into the golden age of humanity. And all we have to do, we're in the most uncomfortable, transitional, transformational stage right now, because we're exposing all of the darkness and the corruption. And that's not easy. It's like doing shadow work. It's so uncomfortable and hard and scary for a lot of people. And that's why they don't even want to admit. A lot of people have so much cognitive dissonance in the world just because they don't want to believe that the atrocities that have been happening all of our lives are actually happening. So they shut it off, and they don't want to even believe it or look at it. But the truth is all coming out. All of the corruption is being exposed. All of these systems of control, the 3D matrix of control, it's all crashing down, including our schooling system, medical system, judicial, political, banking system. All of it is crashing down. And we're going to have the opportunity to start rebuilding the new earth, the way that it should have been from the beginning, and the way that it's been prophesized and foretold in the Bible and in 30 different religions and cultures around the world. They have all spoken about this age, the fifth dimension, the golden age of humanity, the Revelations in the Bible. They've all spoken about this before. So there are good things coming, and thank you for holding that higher vibrational possibility and opportunity for people to focus on. But for you, I would like to know, what have you got going on right now? And if people want to get a hold of you, like what kind of projects do you have going on? And if people want to get a hold of you, how would they do that?
Yeah. So I'm most active on my Instagram account, and it's my name, @Kristen_Nagle. You have to type it out right to the last letter, you know, the shadow ban and everything is real. So you can find me there on Instagram and Telegram. But of course, Canadian Frontline Nurses, and we're on all social media platforms, Twitter, Telegram, and all the things. Sarah Shajunian does an amazing job looking after that. Our website, CanadianFrontlineNurses.ca. And we do have really exciting things coming. So I want to say next week, like our new website is so close to being launched. And in this website, we've been working on how to create a space for nurses that want out of the conventional system, or that have been terminated from, you know, their workplace. So we looked into, and there are several hubs that have been formed in different cities and communities for, you know, whether it's a brick and mortar or an actual place to go to. But we wanted one place where the public could find a nurse of their specialty or, you know, expertise, what they're looking for. So we have a national database that should be released soon. It's going to be on a paid membership site to try to keep it a little bit safer from just, you know, being out in the public. It's called Connecting Communities with Care. And so right now it's a place to find a nurse that could hopefully enter your home, because we want to take out the middleman of, you know, the brick and mortar. Right now, you know, that just has a big target on it. The government's going to come after it, plus the amount of money to get it started, the expenses, the equipment, just all the things that are needed to have a brick and mortar. Landlords can lock the doors, just all the things right now. So we're just starting with trying to get nurses in the home. There's so much that can be done. You know, in someone's space. I mean, that's where you learn about the person. You see how they live, what stressors are in their home, what is their environment like, you know, what are their cupboards filled with. So it leaves a lot of opportunity for education as well. And we're seeing this. I know, you know, Amanda Forbes has a huge story with her own father. She's been caring for him in her home after, you know, an adverse reaction. And so we're kind of going to be collaborating, I hope, and trying to get that out of like what is possible to do in the home, because that's another lie they've told us as well, where we forgot that before there was, you know, nurses and doctors and hospitals and places to hand over our responsibility to get those quick fixes. We were nurturers and caregivers, and, you know, we were filled with all this knowledge. So we want to get that back. It's what I was saying at the beginning, like when you become an expert over your life and, you know, you can take care of people in your home. So I'm rambling again, but basically we want to see birth to palliative and everything in between back in the homes. So our website is coming out soon. It's called Connecting Communities with Care is the one section on there. We're hoping to also have webinars and educational tools and just information to give out freely to the public, just to kind of start helping people feel empowered. One of the biggest shifts we're also doing is changing the language. We're removing the word patient, because patient is another victim word, where you become a patient, where you, again, hand over your responsibility. Someone, you know, looks after you and does the things to you. We're looking for active participants in their health journey.
I like that.
Yeah, someone else shared that word with us, and we told them, we're like, we're gonna take that, so they're okay with it, because we need to be moving forward. Because the only person that can treat, cure, and treat, cure, and heal is the individual. No one else can do that, only the individual, and they have to want to do those things. Right. So we're just here as guides and to help them feel empowered in their journey. So that's what we're doing. Sarah herself is really moving forward with her mental health project. Her initiative is called Lighting Up Dark Corners. It's helping people look at their childhood trauma and get to the root cause of their traumas. And
I have her, I'm doing an interview with her tomorrow.
Oh, great. Okay, perfect. So this kind of segues into that. Yes. Yeah. Okay, awesome.
All about that.
Okay, so she'll tell you all about that. So those are the kind of the things that we're focusing on at the moment with Canadian Frontline Nurses, and hoping to see how it will organically grow and evolve as we move forward. So right now, that's what we're starting with, and we know that it's just going to only leave us with opportunity to continue moving forward.
Amazing. Thank you so much for absolutely everything that you're doing with the Canadian Frontline Nurses, and how you've put yourself out there and how you've spoken out for those who don't have a voice. I think it's really important that we acknowledge the people who have been so brave, because these are the people who initially were so ostracized and judged and criticized and kicked out of their professions. And like myself also, I lost my 20-year career, and you know, the people who were condemned in such a horrible, horrible way. I just want you to know that I feel like you were on your own divine path, and that you're doing everything that you were meant to be doing in your own calling. And I'm really grateful for you sharing your story, and for you reaching out and starting up the Canadian Frontline Nurses, because quite obviously that's exactly what all of Canada needs right now. Is there anything else that you would like to share with everybody before we go?
No, it's just, I'm just going to probably leave with, have faith, don't lose hope, and just know that there isn't going to be, you know, a savior, a leader, or organization that all of a sudden is going to end all this.
Or a political party.
Or a political party. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
It has to come from the grassroots, and it comes with us making change in our hearts, in our home, and then growing that into our communities. And that means making hard decisions. You know, look at becoming an entrepreneur, finding, you know, jobs that don't hold leverage over you or coerce you into losing bodily autonomy, finding any way to cut all the chains and leverage that the powers that be might have over you. Maybe that means downsizing, moving, get your kids out of school. I really can't emphasize that enough. I know it's difficult. I know we've been so accustomed to the public system, but outschool, homeschool, learning pods. We need to totally drastically change education for our kids and where they're going. This is all for them and their future. So I think we have to stop waiting for someone to fix all this for us. And we have to start making very hard choices and changes in our lives and start going the direction where we want to be. And using that cliche quote, be the change you want to see, right?
Yeah, be the change you want to be, Mahatma Gandhi.
Yes,
yeah.
Thank you.
I couldn't agree more. And I call it exiting the 3D matrix of control. Yeah. And it has everything to do with all of the systems that have been controlling every aspect of our lives, our entire lives up until now. So 100% I agree. Exiting the 3D matrix of control and building communities with like-minded people and moving forward in the direction that we all want to move forward. Absolutely. So thank you very much. It was really nice to chat with you and to see you face to face. Not in person, but face to face. Yeah, it's something. Yes. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing with the books and, you know, capturing everyone's stories. I think it's just amazing to have those pieces of history to look back on and remember, and for all of us to know, you know, all across Canada, who is speaking out and being a change maker. So thank you so much for all the hard work you've been doing. Oh, you're very welcome. And like you, I am answering my calling, and I really feel like I've stepped into my path and my purpose. This is what I'm doing now. So, and this is where I feel fulfilled, and this is where I feel like I'm actually making a difference. I'm being the change that I want to see in the world. Yes, exactly. So for everyone else, please like this video. Please subscribe to my channel, Lady Braven of the Pride. And please comment below if you have any questions. I would like everybody to comment on the possibilities and the opportunities that you see for the future. Please comment below. And subscribe to this channel, because we all know that courage is contagious. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again.